Hey, what's goody, Frye gang? I'm going back to my roots, back to where my whole channel blew up. I am finally, as promised, 6 months ago, half a year ago, I am finally finishing covering the rest of the Splatoon 1 cut and unused content. So this video will be the rest of the cut and unused content that I've been able to come across so far. So it's been a long time coming, so let's get right into it. A lot of the beginning of this is going to be pre-release stuff, so like E3 stuff that was shown off at E3. So even though it's not really cut or unused, I still think it's interesting enough to include in the video. Starting off, we have early title screen. We have a look at the early title screen here. Now, at the beginning, shown off in E3, the title screen looked like this here on the left, and this was later used for some promotional art, and of course in the final version this is what it looks like on the right. So it's a massive difference. The one on the right is more immersive, I guess. When you start the game, it opens up right into the square right there, where the one on the left was just more of a static standard title screen image that most games have. Next we get to look at some early lobby stuff. So here, as we're queuing up into a match, by the way, I am very sleep deprived right now, so please excuse if I start slurring my words and going off on tangents. I'm trying my best. But here we have an early look at the lobby while we're queuing up for a match. It looks like before it would give us a quick description of the mode we're playing. So I'm sure this would be the same for the ranked modes. So for Rainmaker, Tower Control, Splat Zones, if we are waiting for a match to start, it would give us 3 quick little tips, or basically rules and what the game mode is about. So this would have been very helpful for new players, but I guess I'm not sure why they took this out. I don't remember what's currently taking up that space in the final game. It's been a while, but I feel like leaving this in would have been helpful for newer players, so they don't have to go somewhere else to learn about how to play the certain game modes. And then after that, we have a loading screen for when we finally get into a match and we're waiting. I'm not sure what the whole round 2 final thing is about. Maybe it's consecutive games in a row, but the game doesn't keep track of that, so I'm not really too sure what all of that is about. And then the results screen here is also a lot different, where it actually had a ranking system. It looks similar to how Mario Kart is, so from 1st to 8th here, instead of it's being split up into the teams of 4, this kind of pits everyone in the entire match against each other. So this looks a lot different from how we have it now. Now we have some screenshots from the E3 trailer itself. So I'm going to play a little slideshow here of the screenshots. And while I'm not going to show the trailer itself in full, I'm just going to have it in playing in the background here while I'm explaining the differences and talking about it. But Splatoon was first shown off for the very first time at E3 2014. While the foundation for the game was settled down, it was only about 10% complete when it was first shown off, but it was very well received by the crowd even though it was still in development. Some of the main differences were the song playing in the trailer is an early version of Splatak. It can be found as a bonus track in the official Splatoon video game soundtrack. Only one weapon, the splatter shot, was seen in the trailer, and the booyah / nice and come on / to me icons were simply just called signal. On the D-pad, there was a function to signal your teammates. It has the normal function of the D-pad in the final game, except it doesn't display a message. And the gamepad screen originally had a button to toggle gyro controls on and off on the fly, like in an actual match. This is a different menu in the final game, so I'm not sure why they took that out. That actually would have been helpful for a lot of people if you're able to toggle it on and off live in a match. So if like you're moving around with gyro too much and it's making you sick, you can disable it for the match until you feel better or something. There are also some visual differences with some of the clothing worn in the trailer received some minor changes. The white tee had a slightly different design in the Inkling language, resembling Kore instead of the Ika. The pink tag wasn't present either. The icon on the Inkling splatted is absent and shows how many points goes towards the inked turf. The ink tank icon looked taller and had a different animation from being filled up. Some of the background rooftops had white textures and were most likely placeholder graphics. And originally, Inklings had a different model for when transforming out of squid form. It also took longer to become their human-like model. And then we have some screenshots here of the early and final versions. The ink had a different lighting effect. In the final game, it looks more watery, and certain graphical effects like moving through ink were more simple. So with these two screenshots here, you can kind of already see the difference, at least in the ink. Another big thing was that Urchin Underpass was the only playable map in the demo. It had some unfinished areas of the map blocked off by oil pumps. There's a placeholder striped floor in the blocked off section when the map is shown from above in the results screen. The map also was unpolished, with the glass floors being completely non-opaque. There was also slight changes. Some platforms were only reachable by going up steep ramps. Now here I have some early images of Arowana Mall. Unfortunately, there aren't any final images from the final version to compare, but I'm sure we all know what Arowana Mall looks like and can be able to spot differences. But here we have two early screenshots of Arowana, and Arowana Mall was originally long and narrow, mostly white background textures. Salt Spray Rig also got pretty substantial changes as well. So here on the left we have the early version, and on the right is the final version. Salt Spray Rig featured an entirely different lower half, and the upper half had different textures and slight other differences. Walleye Warehouse also had some changes, where it originally had moving platforms that went horizontal in the middle of the map, and the containers could be climbed on from the side. So I think that would have been a very cool gimmick for Walleye to have these platforms moving back and forth throughout the entire game. It would give the map its own distinct personality, just like how Anchovy Games had the fan elevator platforms, like the fan platforms that we have. So having more stage specific gimmicks would have given a lot of them more recognizability, and just overall would be a lot more fun to play. And another difference is that the voice for the female Inkling when doing a super jump sounds more human and higher in pitch. But after that, there was a kiosk demo at E3 2014, so basically little station setups where people can play a demo of the game early and try it out. Now there are some videos showcasing this. I'm not going to play them in the video because they are pretty long. One of them's 14 minutes long, the other one's like 9 minutes long, so I will link them in the description if you really do want to go watch them yourselves, but those are there. And then in November of 2014 we got another trailer for Splatoon, this time in the Nintendo Direct. The game was shown off again, this time in the Direct. Two stages, which were the Black Valley Skate Park and Camp Triggerfish, was shown off along with the Octo Valley campaign. And then some other general differences were that the Inklings voice clips now matched up with the final game, and Tentacular Circus sounds almost exactly the same with the exception of the ending part, though it was likely made for the trailer. And some stage differences: that Camp Triggerfish's layout was different in terms of aesthetical detail, even though it had a lot minor layout changes, and Black Belly looked more close to the final product, so not too many changes there. We then got another trailer in April, and there were quite a few differences in there, but the most notable one in an image I actually have for is that for rollers, an Inkling is shown idling at spawn with a dynamo roller early on, and the roller head unfolded and not slung behind the back, unlike in the final game where the roller head folds when standing or running in humanoid form. Now that we have the early E3 stuff out of the way, we start getting to actual unused stuff, and we have some unused textures here. So we have debug paint shots. I'm not really sure what these are used for, but we have 3 small images titled debug shot 0, 1, and 2. But it's unknown what their purposes were for. Based on the name, I'm guessing these were to test the shots, so like when you actually shoot, what shape the ink blobs would come out as. So I mean, we've all played Splatoon, so we know that they come out in kind of like teardrop shapes, but it seems like these were other shapes considered for the shots. And we also have like a cube map viewer. I'm also not really sure what that is, but there's a preset in the viewer cube map folder, I guess, and is a single texture called Gambit Viewer, however having multiple image surfaces. And for some reason these images are like very washed out and brightened, so I'm gonna play a little slideshow of those here. But this is how the images look. I don't know why they're so washed out like. Now we have some placeholder gear images. One here on the left that said not found is for a gear icon, and then the one with no brand is brand icon. These are just simply placeholder images. If there is no brand or icon for a piece of gear, the game will just display these instead. And another actually interesting unused object here is a seesaw. So apparently there were supposed to be seesaws, and it would tilt if the player stepped on it. It was meant to be used for Flounder, but the game is never set to load it. So I'm going to play the clip right here showing it off. Now this one I know a lot of people would be interested in, and it was actually reworked later on in the series, but there was initially going to be playable octolings. So octolings have 2 separate models, one for the enemy that appears in single player on the right, and an unused one that functions as an alternate player model for the Inklings on the left. Player octolings would never see the light of day until the release of the Octo expansion DLC for Splatoon 2, with different designs compared to the enemy octolings. An interview with the director Hisashi Nogami revealed that the developers did consider original plans for playable octolings for Splatoon 1 on June 28th, 2018. That's when the interview was held, and even before hackers modded the enemy octolings in. they were initially planned to be playable. In hacking the goggles off the enemy model shows that the Inkling's eyes are placeholders, while the player models use unique ones not found anywhere else. Sometimes the player model can fail to load and use either garbage textures or Inkling eyes. An official artwork of an octoling without goggles was published on both the Japanese Twitter and American Tumblr Squid Research Center promo media. The player model has ink color changing hair. The player model also received changes in the updates, most notably adding a mouth for use in losing animations. And some people may already know about this one, but the octolings have their own unique version of the Kraken, fan-dubbed Octo Kraken. It is very similar to regular Kraken, only with its tentacles curled forward instead of pointing straight back. The Octo Kraken used the same playable octolings in Splatoon 3, had a more realistic design compared to the one here. And since the octolings were never programmed to have animations in Inkopolis Plaza, the game would originally crash whenever it attempted to load them in, including at the title screen, essentially soft-locking other players from playing the game again until a Splatfest. So should they play with hackers who are octolings. This bug was thankfully patched, and the game will use the Inkling girls instead of if octolings were on in this. Further speaking of octolings, if the player uses a team changer cheat code in an octoling stage to be on the same team as the octolings, the game will show a piece of text above the octolings head with the name Rival, much like the name of a player in an online match. The player can also super jump to the octolings much like they would in a regular online battle. Now, while the next two things I'm about to cover aren't unused as they're still in the game, we typically don't ever see them. So at least here for the skull bandana, the top half of the skull in the bandana texture is never seen, as the material is folded in half so that the face is folded inwards on the inside of the bandana when we're wearing it. So we only see the mouth when it's actually on your Inkling model. And for Anchovy games, there's a map near both of the elevators in Anchovy games, suggesting that the stage was going to have a different layout. So we can see here of the map, it looks very much like a Splatoon 3 map. It looks like a table turf map. And then on the right, obviously, is the final map we have. But thank fuck that we did not get the version on the left. So even before Splatoon 3, they were still thinking about making hallway ass maps. And in the model for Inkopolis Plaza is this picture of the Squid Sisters displayed on the TV as a placeholder for the animated graphic. Now, as for debug content, there's not a whole lot. There is a parameter sheet, which I doubt literally any of you care about, but there is a debug font that is present in the system.pack file. Now, this one is a bit of a special case as it's both used and unused at the same time, but the title music for the global testfire, which is a rendition of Splatac, is present in Splatoon 1, the game itself, but was never actually used. So although it was in the testfire, it was never used in Splatoon 1, so it's still technically an unused piece of content, but I will play that for you right here. Now we have some unused model for Slosher of all things, and it's only really for Slosher and Inkopolis Plaza. I'm not really too sure what these are, so if any of y'all want to look further into it, I will link the Google Drive I got this from in the description. Normally I won't, but since the person who sent me this Google Drive, they asked me not to cover anything in it because they weren't done compiling everything, but that was over half a year ago, and their account on Discord got deleted and I haven't heard from them since. So I think it's safe that I could share this now that nothing's been done with it. So I will link it in the description if you want to see this. It's got some Splatoon 2 stuff in there as well, but I'm gonna play a slideshow of all the models right here. And that is all of the rest of the Splatoon 1 cut and unused content. Now there are a couple things that I skipped over, but those were mostly just like parameter stuff that I didn't understand and that y'all probably don't care about. And a little couple things here and there, little differences from the E3 trailer and the other trailers, but I mean, you can always just go watch those yourself and see the differences. I didn't think they were too important enough to include in the video. But as for now, that's everything from the Google Drive and from the cutting room floor. That's the rest of the cut and unused content for Splatoon 1. This video is long overdue. I said I'd do this forever ago, but it's finally here. And best believe, I'm waiting. Best believe when we finally get some cut and unused content for side order, I am hopping on that immediately. If I find cut and unused content for side order, I am hopping on that immediately. So best believe that video will be coming when it comes. But other than that, that's really it. That's the rest of the cut and unused content for the whole series right now. I'm sure there's more that I haven't seen yet, but if there's any more and substantial enough to make more videos on it, I will definitely do that. But for now, the series is finally complete. Back where my whole channel started, technically it was side order, but this cut and unused content stuff is where my channel really blew up from. So it's kind of nice to finally wrap it all up. But this is a nice send off to the little mini series of the cut content. But that's about it. See you next mission and play some goddamn Splatty.